Okay, what is up, Balance Babes, and welcome back to my channel. The last time you guys saw me, I was very pregnant and I was getting ready to have my daughter. Well, guess what? She is here and she is officially 1 month old. So I figured I'd jump on here and kind of share my birth story. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. So sit back, relax, and enjoy it. Back to my channel. The last time you guys saw me, like I said, I was, I think, 35 weeks pregnant, and I was getting ready to have my daughter. Well, she is here and she is the most beautiful, like, just loving baby. Like, I wish that I could have the words, but I'm speechless about this little girl. Like, I'm so obsessed, so in love with her. Okay, now that I'm done with that, so I just want to come on here and share my birth story with you guys. So it may be a little lengthy, but I'm gonna try my very best to kind of just like wrap it up. I do have some footage, not a lot of hospital footage, because I was just really trying to live in a moment. And to be honest, birthing and the pain is real. So I mean, who has time to make videos when you're in pain? I mean, I don't know. So let's just start with me actually going into labor. So I had her on at 5:20 p.m. on March the 21st. But before I even did all of that, I'm just going to give you a backstory. So Friday, I was having what felt like cramping pain, but it wasn't really bad. So I was like, okay, whatever. So of course we are in the quarantine. COVID-19 is taking over almost everyone's lives. So we were basically, my significant other and I, we were trying to go to the grocery store to get just some groceries, because as you guys know, if you've been to the store, the shelves are completely bare. So we were too busy trying to go and get things from the grocery store. So while we were in the grocery store, I kept feeling like little pains, but I was like, oh, I'm used to these, probably Braxton Hicks, nothing special. So this was around maybe 4 or 5 in the evening. So we got home, cooked dinner, sat down, and we were lounging on the couch. So then the pain started getting more intense. And when I mean more intense, I'm talking about like period cramps times 10. So I was like, oh my goodness, what's going on? So I actually downloaded this app. One second. Okay, so I downloaded an app, and it was the contractions app. I'm sorry, I'll link it above right here, but I downloaded a contractions app, and basically on that app it tells you, it allows you to time your contractions. So I was like, okay, let me see if these are real or not. So I think the rule is, if you're having contractions, if they're at least 1 minute long and 5 minutes apart, then you go to the doctor. So I called the nurse. Okay, so back up. I started timing my contractions for like an hour. So I called my sister on the phone and I was asking her, okay, what do real contractions feel like? I called my mom, and we were all like on a 3-way call. So they were just telling me, okay, you should call the nurse or go to the emergency room if you feel like you're in labor. So I was like, I don't want to go prematurely, because at this point I had just turned 39 weeks. So I was like, no. And then I had gone to my 39-week appointment on Thursday, and my OB was basically like, okay, you're not dilated, you're not effaced. You know, I'm looking for you to have this baby probably at 41 weeks. So don't even worry about it, go home. So I was like, okay, cool, fine. I'm not gonna have a baby. Okay, so came home Friday night. Once we came home Friday night, lounging on the couch, I started basically counting my contractions. And once I started using the app to do my contractions, they started getting closer and closer and more intense. I'm talking about, like, I started to feel them in my butt. And they usually say when you're starting to feel them in your butt, that means that you are in active labor. So I timed to call the nurse, and the nurse was getting all my information, asking all the questions. And she was like, okay, well, I think the time was about 10:30. And she said, okay, well, wait 2 hours. And in 2 hours, if they are still 5 minutes apart and a minute long, then you need to go to the emergency room. So I said, okay, fine. So I was like, well, just in case I have to go, let me go upstairs and shower and get comfortable. So once I got in the shower and kind of laid down, the contractions started to subside. So they weren't 5 minutes apart anymore, and they weren't as intense. So I'm laying down, and by the time my significant other, he was asleep, and we get to I start feeling this pain. It started out really moderate at first, and then it got really intense, and I was like, okay, I want to go to the emergency room. So he was like, are you sure? I was like, yes. So this was around 2 o'clock in the morning. So about 2:30 we ended up leaving the house. So we got the bags. A good thing they were already packed. We got the bags, got in the car, and we went to the emergency room. Once we went to the emergency room, I got checked in. It was really quick because I think of the COVID-19. So they were taking all the precautions. We got checked in. We went straight to triage. When we went to triage, I changed, they got my information, and they were like, okay, well, we're just gonna hook you up to the machine, and we're gonna see how your contractions are doing. So this was about maybe 3 o'clock once we finally got settled in. So I waited 2 hours to see the doctor. Before the doctor even came in, I waited 2 hours. Once the doctor came in, this was about 5 a.m. She checked me, and she was like, oh, okay, you're about 1 centimeter dilated, and you're 100% effaced. And she was like, so we're gonna wait 2 more hours to see if you do anything else. And she was like, my shift is over at 7, so in 2 hours I'll be back to see what's going on. So I was like, okay. So by this time, she was like, well, in the meantime, while we're waiting, make sure that you're up walking around. So Russell and I, that's my significant other's name, but Russell and I, we decided to start walking around. So the area wasn't really big, and we couldn't leave the triage area, so, or labor and delivery, we couldn't leave that area. So basically we walked around what was like a rectangle kind of feel. It wasn't really big at all. So we walked around there every 30 minutes for about 15 minutes. So we walked around, and as I was walking, the labor pains, you guys, got so intense. Like I could not move, like, and it was, oh my goodness, words cannot express. So at this point, I'm stopping in the hall, holding my belly, like I'm feeling it in my butt. So let me tell you guys what it felt like. If you've ever had a sharp pain in like your butt or whatever, like you had like trapped gas and you like it hurts to get it out. So imagine that times 10, and it's like on your butt to the point where like you can't sit, you can't move, like you barely can walk. Like I was barely like, ugh. It was horrible. So basically I did that for the 2 hours that I was waiting for the doctor to come back in. So the doctor finally came in about 7:15, 7:30. Once the doctor came in, she checked me again, and she was like, okay, wow, you're 3 centimeters. We're gonna have a baby today. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, I didn't want to go home anyway, so all right, that's fine. So as soon as she said we're gonna have a baby today, she was like, I checked you, you're good to go. It's my shift change, but I'm gonna send the nurse in, and we're gonna go ahead and get you started. So my nurse came in, guys, and as soon as she came in, she got all my information. She started my IV, and the first thing she asked was, what do you want for pain? Now, I had already planned on getting the epidural, so I was set on that. So I was like, okay, I want the epidural. Literally, my nurse was so good. I got the epidural, I want to say, in less than an hour. So the doctor came and checked me about 7:30. My nurse came in literally about 15-20 minutes after, and she got my IV started. She got all my paperwork. She got me hooked up. I was ready to go. She ordered my epidural, I want to say at maybe 8:15, 8:20, after she got all of my stuff done. The epidural was, the lady was there, the anesthesiologist, she was there before 9 o'clock, guys. Like, this is how fast everything went. She was there before 9 o'clock. So she got there at 9, walked me through the procedures. With the epidural, you have to sign some paperwork. So I signed some paperwork, and she kind of explained to me everything was going on. Now, I'll be completely honest. I was terrified to get the epidural. I know I wanted it because it was going to relieve my contractions, because at this point my contractions were so intense. Like, I don't see how people say they do it natural, because there's no way I could do it. Like, kudos to the mommies. Yes, hand clap, kudos to you guys. But me, I could not do it whatsoever. So I was ready to get that epidural. So we got the epidural. back up. So the anesthesiologist, she came in, talked me through everything. She was really, 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 really nice. So like, she was perfect. She did my epidural. Once she did the epidural, she was like, okay, it's gonna kick in about 15 minutes. Guys, no lie. When that epidural kicked in, it was like, bam, 15 minutes. The contractions that I was getting that was so intense, oh my goodness. Now, I did get my epidural while I was in triage, which usually you get it in labor and delivery, but they were still getting my room ready. So the anesthesiologist came in, did my epidural, we were good to go. Like, it literally took her less than 15-20 minutes to get it all done, and boom, we were out. Now, I would say with the epidural, they tell you to be like really still. The only bad part about it is not even getting the needle put in your back. It's the pressure that you feel once the medicine goes through. Like, I had pressure on my left side, and that pressure is intense. So that was probably the only part of the epidural where I was just like, ugh. But it wasn't bad because the pressure didn't last as long. So I felt pressure twice, and she told me that I would, and she was really good. She walked you through the whole thing. So epidural was perfect. Once I got that, I moved to labor and delivery. So this was about, I didn't get to labor and delivery till about maybe 9:30, 9:45. It was close to 10 o'clock. So I got in labor and delivery, and once I got in there, Russell went down, he got the bags, because of course I had my cute little labor and delivery nightgown, so I was so ready to put it on. So he got my pillow, my blanket, my gown. I put it on, and one thing about this epidural, guys, I don't know about you guys, you have to tell me, I was knocked out. Like, I remember looking at the clock, and the clock said 10:06 by the time I got changed and everything was ready to go. Guys, I was asleep from 10:06 to like 5 o'clock, like 20 minutes before it was time for me to actually have the baby. So, oh my goodness, it was, I don't know what they put in that, but I was out like a light. Like, I remember one time it was like 3:45, and I was like, okay, Ashley, just keep your eyes open. Keep your eyes open. I looked at the clock, and I literally could not keep my eyes open. Now, I will say with the epidural, I was sick as well, so it made me very nauseous. So I threw up 3 times, like I vomited 3 times, and I wasn't eating anything, so it was all clear. And I think at one point the nurse brought me some apple juice, and it could not stay down. So water, apple juice, any of those things. She brought me some like orange juice too, like some clear, I think it was like Powerade, whatever. It could not stay down. So I was like, it was intense. Like, the vomiting was intense, and the only thing about the vomiting is because I guess the anesthesia or the epidural, it's so strong to where it numbs or affects everything, because I barely could cough, I barely could move my body to kind of like sit up, to spit up. So that part was very that was the only bad part about it, but it really wasn't that bad, because once I was done, I was done. But it was hard because I guess the numbing, so my body, like this part of my body was trying to function, and it really couldn't do what it needed to do. So that was very intense, but we got through it. It was disgusting. So we got through that part, and I remember the nurse coming in, and I was so out of it, but I heard her come in about 4:30, and she was like, or 4 o'clock, she was like, we're gonna check her, but I don't even want to check her because she's just sleeping so peacefully. So she didn't check me at 4. I'm pretty sure she checked me at 4. I was probably 10 centimeters dilated by that time. So yeah, she came back at 5, well, maybe 4:45, because it was before 5 o'clock. She came in at 4:45, and I was up at this point, and she was like, okay, well, let's check you. She's like, oh, you're ready to go, you're 10 centimeters dilated, but for some reason my water still hadn't broken. So she was like, we're gonna go ahead and break your water. So they broke my water, and she's just, I felt like a little, even though I was numb, I still felt like a little pop or whatever, and the water broke. And once my water broke, she's like, okay, I'm gonna go change, get ready, and we're gonna have a baby. Okay, so I was like, oh Lord, we're gonna have a baby. So immediately, I was already messaging my family the best I could, in and out of sleep. So what I did, because of COVID-19, I could only have one guest. So of course, Russell was my one guest. So I FaceTime my family. So it was my sisters, my mom, and my two best friends from back home. I not messaged them, but I FaceTimed them, and we were all in a group FaceTime, and I was just letting them know, hey, if you guys want to be here for the labor, then just stay on the phone. And the nurses and doctors, they were very supportive of it, so they were not like being really strict and telling me I couldn't have it. So I FaceTimed everyone on there. We were getting ready. The doctor came in maybe about 5:05, 5:10. This thing went really quick, guys. So 5:10, I want to say, the doctor came in. Once the doctor came in, she was like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and start pushing. Like, I thought it was something extra we was gonna prepare. No, the doctor was ready. She was like, okay, we're ready, we're gonna start pushing. So basically, like I said, it went by really fast. So I thought it was something extra that was gonna have to happen. So I had the nurse on my right side, I had Russell on my left side. My legs were up because literally I can't feel them, and they actually moved a mirror in front, which was really great because I got to actually see. So she was so far down already that they could see the hair like coming out already. So I was like, oh, okay, that's creepy. But anyway, we went through with it. So I saw her hair. The doctor's like, yeah, this is her hair. I was like, wow, is it really? She's like, okay, so you just have to push. So let me tell you about pushing with an epidural. Now, this is my experience. So I am pushing, but it does not feel like I'm pushing. Like, because I am so numb, like, and by the way, I had the button for my epidural, so every time it would wear off, I would like kind of put more medicine in and it would numb me. So right before I actually had her, I went ahead and pushed it again to get another dose because it was wearing off just a little bit. So that's just a tidbit of information. So all right, we're back to labor. So basically, guys, I am pushing, right? So I'm pushing, but I can't feel me pushing. So I don't know if I'm doing a good job or not. So the way it works is you'll get to feeling some pressure, and once you feel pressure, then it's time for you to push. So the nurse was really good. She was really patient with me. So, and it didn't take long. Like, I think I had her within 10 minutes. So we started this thing at 5:10, and they was like, okay, you ready to push? I'm like, okay, I'm ready to push. So she was like, push. I was like, ugh. Once again, I don't feel like I'm pushing, but I'm like, ugh, right? So I'm sorry for the expressions, but this is really how it happened. So I'm pushing, and as I'm pushing, I get to see the head come out a little bit more. She's like, oh, dude, you're doing good, you're doing good. And I'm looking in the mirror, I'm like, I don't know how I'm doing, because like, she's not moving. So then the doctor gets, you know, to playing with the little area around your vagina to kind of widen her up or loosen it up to get the head out, right? So we're pushing again. So I'm probably on my third push at this point. She's like, okay, push again, you're doing good. So push. Once again, I don't feel the pressure. I mean, I only feel pressure. I don't feel me pushing anything out. So finally, it took me about, I think Russell said 8 or 10 pushes. Either way, 8 or 10 pushes, and this little girl was out of there. You hear me? Like, we started at 5:10, in 10 minutes she was out. And then again, I did have my family over here, so she came out, and Russell cut the umbilical cord. We had the nurse to actually take a picture of us, which I'm going to insert right now. So this is our very first family picture together with our baby girl. So she gets out, we push her out, everything is going good. Nothing, like, it was the best labor experience I could have hoped for, which is really crazy because I was so afraid of the labor process. I did not know how I was gonna feel about labor. I was so scared. And one of the things that I was really scared about is because African American women have a very high percentage of or high death rate when it comes to labor and delivery, and I was so afraid of that part of it. And I know it's so crazy to think that, but I was afraid. I was literally like, you know what, I don't know, Lord, like I need to make it through this, right? So I was very afraid of that part, but everything worked out. God is good. And it was a beautiful experience. And even though I had just pushed this baby out, I I literally could not believe it. So I was still like in shock a little bit. Like, they laid the baby on my chest. We did skin to skin, and they said you have to do that for an hour. So we did skin to skin for an hour, and once I did that, I did my first feeding with her, and I let her latch on, because let me tell you something, this baby came out the womb hungry. Like, I laid her on my chest and she was already let me focus in. Okay, she was already basically just sucking on my chest, which was the cutest little thing. And I'll insert the picture, our very first picture of her laying on my chest here. So she was laying on my chest. Very beautiful experience. Like, it was like one of the best feelings I ever had in my life. So she fed, and I latched her on. She latched on perfectly initially. Now, I know this is crazy because I just wanted to exclusively pump and bottle feed. I didn't want her to latch, but in the hospital I let her latch on immediately. So she latched on, and that was all great. We got moved from our delivery room to the postpartum room. So once we got moved to that room, it was a little bit better, because we got kind of settled in, and we actually got to kind of look at baby and just really take everything in. So we did that, and of course the doctors came in, they checked my vitals, her vitals. They immediately asked you what you want to eat, but by the time we got to our room, it was like 7 o'clock, so the cafeteria was closed, and it was a Saturday, so we had to just get some hot food from downstairs in their little deli area, which was fine, because I think I had a salad. I had a Cobb salad, was my very first meal, a Cobb salad, and I think I just had some water or something like that. So yeah, very simple meal, because I was so tired. So honestly, that first night we didn't get much sleep, and we didn't get much sleep. I didn't get much sleep because the doctors, or the nurses keep coming in and out, and every 4 hours, and it's just hard to get sleep like that. So they came in every 4 hours and they checked her vitals. So within our first hour of being there, they basically checked her for they gave her hepatitis B shot, her first one, and then they checked her for jaundice. So this is where things got a little bit intense for us, because she actually failed her first jaundice test. So usually when you're a newborn, they want you to be they call it bilirubin. So your bilirubin, I think that's what it is. Yeah, bilirubin. Is that it? Let me Google it real quick, y'all, because I think it's bilirubin. I'm almost positive that's what it is, but where I'm from, we just say jaundice, but I think it's bilirubin. Let's see. Yeah, okay, it's bilirubin. Okay, so sorry about that. So they had to check her bilirubin. Once they checked her bilirubin level, they usually wanted to be below 5. Her initial bilirubin level was 9. So that wasn't good at all. So then they came back and they checked her again. And once they checked her again, it was at 11. So when they check babies' bilirubin, what they have to do is take a blood sample from their feet, and then they have to take it down to the lab. So she was a newborn baby, not even 24 hours old yet, and they were pricking her little feet. Oh my goodness, it was just it was an experience. So her bilirubin went up to 11 the second time. So the thing about the bilirubin is it can go higher as they get older, but there's a certain level that it has to reach. So she wasn't even 24 hours old, and in the first 24 hours they like it to be below 5. So right then and there, hers had already skyrocketed. So they suggested that she get put under the UV light, or the heating lamp or whatever. So we had to do that. She was under that light, guys, for 3 days. So she was under the light literally the next day, the next morning of our labor. So she was born on the 21st. She was under the 22nd, the 23rd, and by the 24th she was under there, but I ended up getting discharged late on the 24th. So basically her levels kept increasing, and once her levels kept increasing, they had to make a decision to either move her to the NICU or keep intensifying the light. So by the third day, it just really wasn't working out. Her levels were constantly increasing. So by this time, so over this 3-day period while she's under the light, we were trying different things. So I was pumping, which my first initial breastfeed or milk supply, I pumped 20 milliliters in my first supply. So everyone was so shocked because they say the nurses were saying that new moms normally don't get that much. My milk supply was overflowing, okay? So to be a new mom. So, and it was just the colostrum, the initial breast milk you get. So, and I'll insert a picture somewhere in here, but I was pumping about 20 milliliters. And if you guys don't know, they give you guys the little bitty bottles like this size because newborns can't take that much. So 20 milliliters, I was pumping like 2 of those, so 40 milliliters at one time. So basically, we were trying all kind of different methods to see what will work because they were thinking that the breast milk wasn't, okay, so let me back up. In order to get the jaundice down, babies have to poop. So that first initial poop that's like black and sticky, that's fine. We're not even counting that. But they have to poop out the jaundice, which is the yellow. So they like for them the poop to be seedy yellow color. Does that make sense? So she wasn't pooping enough, and they were trying to figure out why wasn't she going to the bathroom. So that was holding her jaundice up. So to make her kind of poop a little bit faster, I had to supplement breast milk and formula together. So basically I was mixing my 20 milliliters of breast milk with 20 milliliters of formula, and I was feeding that to her. So that kind of made her poop, but it still didn't make the jaundice go down. So fast forward back to day 3, we have been doing this over again. So me being the Google person that I am, I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna Google this thing and figure out what's going on. So I saw something that said something about breast milk jaundice. So I was like, so it's my breast milk. And at that moment, I just immediately got distraught because I was like, oh my God, oh my goodness, I'm hurting her. Like my breast milk is hurting her. So it was very emotional for me. On day 3, she had to go to the NICU. It was very emotional for me. Like it was horrible. And it was more so horrible because, on the day of my discharge, I got discharged on the maybe 23rd, but they told me I could stay because the baby was still there. Well, because of COVID-19, they were only allowing one parent to be there with the baby because the baby was still in the hospital, but I wasn't. So I could stay. Russell couldn't stay. So that was even more heartbreaking because he couldn't stay. He couldn't be there. They were moving my baby to the NICU. I was just an emotional wreck. Like I didn't know what to think. Now that I know that jaundice is normal, that's fine. But when you're a new mom, you don't have any support, no family there, you're going through this, your baby's going to the NICU, you don't know what's going on, it can be traumatizing. So I was an emotional wreck. So they moved her to the NICU, and then because they moved her to the NICU, now I had to leave the hospital and be discharged. So we were basically going back and forth up there to the hospital. So this was, I had her on Saturday. This was now Tuesday. Nope. Sunday, Monday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Tuesday. So Tuesday we go back up there and they're still trying to get her levels down, and basically I was going up there just to feed her. So I was going to feed her, change her for her feeding times, and then we would leave and come back home. So we were at the hospital every feeding. So we live about 30 minutes from the hospital. So because of all this COVID-19 stuff, it was just crazy. Like we were either sleeping downstairs in the car, or we would come home, change, freshen up, try to get a few hours of sleep, and then we go right back to the hospital. So literally my first maybe week of being a mom, I had no sleep, and I was an emotional roller coaster because all I was thinking about was, oh my goodness, we got to get to the hospital. I don't want her to be at the hospital by herself. So finally her bilirubin started going down. So the highest that it got was at 13.6, which was extremely high, and that was on Tuesday. nope, that was on, yep, Tuesday when she got admitted. That's when it was the highest. So it had to start coming down. So it started coming down and it got to 11.5. So we needed it to get below 10 in order for her to come home. So on Wednesday evening or afternoon, Wednesday afternoon, it finally got down to 9.8. Like we were right on the money, 9.8. And they were like, okay, she's good, she can go home. So she got to go home. So during this whole process, my baby never received a bath either. So we were very upset about that, because it was like, if we give her a bath, she's gonna have to do skin to skin for at least an hour, and then that's gonna take away from her time being under the light, and we really want to keep her under the light. So she didn't get a bath until she came home. Like, that was her first time getting a bath. So they did not bathe her in the hospital. So we got to bring her home, and that Wednesday evening, and that was pretty much it. And she had her first doctor's appointment on that Friday. So we went back to the hospital. We went to the doctor, on that Friday. They checked her bilirhythm again. So they were constantly pricking her feet. You guys, my baby's feet were horrible. Like, she's just now recovering from her feet being like, they look decent now, but you can still tell the skin is peeling, but it was horrible. So we went to the doctor and her bilirhythm went up to 11.5 again, but the doctor was like, well, because she's a few days older, it's not that intense, we're not worried. So of course I was still worried, because I was like, oh man, I don't want it to go up anymore. So while her bilirubin was still up, her eyes were yellow, like her skin was yellow. You could tell that she had jaundice. So I kind of Googled some home remedies, and I posted on Facebook, and I asked some of my moms, you know, what do you guys think about this? What did you do? Did anybody else experience this? Because at this point my baby was a week old, and a lot of people gave me feedback, and they were like, you know, we did vitamin D drops and we set them in front of the window for sunlight, and we did that for several times a day, 15 minutes until it cleared up. So I did that, and by her second week she was clearing up. Like, her eyes were clear. You could tell that she didn't have the jaundice as much anymore, because jaundice makes you very sleepy, and she wasn't as sleepy. She was up, she was active, very alert. So now she's perfectly fine, no jaundice, and she is an amazing baby. So that's pretty much my birth story. I tried my best to get everything in this video. Sorry if I went a little fast, but I did not. I'm the kind of person where I hate when people drag the video out. Like, let's just get to the point, right? So I did want to just get to the point, and I wanted to get this recorded for you guys. So I'm also going to shoot a video on my postpartum experience as well. So just stay tuned for that, and that will probably be my next video. So you guys are going to get two videos. You're going to get my birth story, and you're going to get my postpartum experience and my postpartum essentials video as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you again so much for watching, my Balance Babes, and please stay safe during this time. Please stay in the house. If you don't have to go out, make sure that you're washing your hands. Make sure that you're sanitizing when needed, wiping things down, wearing a mask if you have to, but most importantly, make sure you're taking care of you and your family. This is a very trying and uncertain time for our nation, but we are gonna get through it. Just stay prayed up, stay positive, and I guarantee you we're gonna see each other on the other side.